Well, thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming to Chicago, Illinois, and our state, Illinois, has 583 miles of the Illinois border of the Mississippi River, and just last Saturday I was in Rock Island, Illinois, right near the river, and we very much appreciate the commitment of Big River Works and the American Wetland Foundation to come here and also to bring people together up and down the Mississippi River. A long time ago, Mark Twain said, whiskey's for drinking and water's worth fighting for. So that's what we believe in Illinois. It's extremely important. I was talking to Jay on the way up. You know, I guess it was 2011. We had a real bad flood. Frankly, we had such a dire situation that the Army Corps of Engineers had to blow out a levee in Missouri to protect many communities in Illinois from being under 15 feet of water. And we had to deploy our National Guard, and we all understood how important it is to respect the river. By the same token, this past summer, and definitely this winter, we had the drought, and navigation became perilous and very questionable on the big river. But fortunately, I think all of us working together, and I think that's a kind of a good model for our mission here today, we were able, working with the Army Corps of Engineers, to keep the barge traffic going and the big river flowing. We had to knock out some pinnacles at Thebes, Illinois. That was a mission that happened very quickly. We worked together. I spoke to the Army Corps of Engineers almost daily. Our staff worked on this, and we were able to make sure that there still was navigation. And I think anyone who looks at the commerce of our country, particularly with important products that go to world markets, whether they be agricultural or manufactured, understands that navigation is indispensable on the Mississippi River. If we're going to do well in a global economy, and Illinois is an exporting state, to say the least, we're one of the leading states to export to the world. We depend on the river to bring a lot of our products down to New Orleans and out to the world market. And so we have to pay attention to navigation issues, and I know that is one of the missions here. We also understand the issues of sediment, and I did want to talk about that a little bit today. We have very fertile farmland in our state. We're blessed by God with some of the most fertile farmland on planet Earth. We grow a lot of products, particularly corn and soybeans. Unfortunately, some of our sediment erodes into the Illinois River and the Mississippi River. We have to do something about that. Now, it starts with working with our farmers on conservation practices that prevent erosion in the first place. And we have done that. We've been a very big participant in the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program and many others. And some of our farmers, I hope even more, believe in sustainable agriculture, no-till agriculture, to do as much as we can to prevent sediment in the first place. But we have to live with the legacy that there's lots of dirt in the Mississippi River and definitely in its tributaries. So what we did beginning when I was lieutenant governor roughly 10 years ago is we have a person who works for our Department of Natural Resources. He's affectionately known as the Mud Man of Peoria. This was a scientist. He told me one time that he'd been looking for somebody to champion his cause, and I turned up at the right time, because his view is that the mud, the sediment at the bottom of the river, was just out of place. It's extremely fertile. It can grow just about anything, but it didn't do much good at the bottom of the Illinois River near Peoria. So I was able to get funding during my time as lieutenant governor that we have barges and dredging going on in Peoria. Actually, very shortly this month and next month we'll be doing it again, but digging up the sediment, putting it on barges, and sending it back north along the Illinois River all the way to Lake Michigan in Chicago. For many years, we had a gigantic steel mill, the United States Steel Mill, U.S. Steel. They made the airplanes in World War II, the girders for the once called Sears Tower, now the Willis Tower, and many other things. but the steel mill closed down roughly 20 years ago, and it was built on a slag field. And slag is not contaminated, but it's inert. You can't grow anything on it. So the idea was to take the mud at the bottom of the river, barge it back up to Chicago, literally slather it on the slag field, about 3 feet deep, and create a new park. So we call this Mud to Parks. And this is the very best kind of mudslinging you're ever going to find, you know. In politics, you have a lot of mudslingers, but this is a good one. And so we've been doing this now for almost a decade, and it's been very, very successful. And when I became governor, we passed a capital bill to invest in all kinds of things in our state, including ports and roads and bridges and highways and railroads and water systems, many things that are important. We also put aside some of that capital money to continue Mud to Parks. We won a national award for it. And, you know, coming over here today, I thought that, you know, we want to definitely help our friends in Louisiana and New Orleans. I think everyone will always have seared in their memory the events of Hurricane Katrina. And, you know, one of the things that we, I think, learned from that is if the mouth of the river, the wetlands, are eroded away in New Orleans and Louisiana, there's nothing to stop the surges of hurricanes. And so it's important to rebuild those wetlands. And they are America's wetlands. And that's why we're very, very committed to that in Illinois. We have many people who have come up on the Illinois Central Railroad in the past to Chicago from New Orleans and elsewhere. And many people from here go to visit New Orleans on the train, the city of New Orleans. So we're all in this together. And I think that's really the theme of Big River Works, whether you live in Minneapolis. When I was a young kid, I spent a summer there with my cousins right on the Mississippi, rafting. You know, we were junior Huck Finns back then. And then you come down the river, you can go by great cities like the Quad Cities, not only Bettendorf, Iowa, and Davenport, but Rock Island and Moline, very important cities in our state. The home of Moline is the home of John Deere. And I can't kind of company if there ever was one. I was just with their past president over the weekend. And it's important as we keep going south, we have a town called Quincy, Illinois. And you can go to a restaurant in Quincy, sit there in a restaurant, and see eagles flying over the Mississippi River. And that's a great sight. Matter of fact, Illinois has more eagles visiting our state every year than any other state in the continental U.S. And as you know, Alaska is not in the continental U.S., so keep that in mind. But, you know, bird flyways are exceptionally important. They need good water, and whether it's the tributaries of the Mississippi or the Mississippi itself, many, many birds of our country fly along the river. And we've got to make sure we take good care of that river, leave it better than we found it. So I used to live in East St. Louis, Illinois, a long time ago, and across from that city is St. Louis. And it's so important to St. Louis, with the arch there, the gateway to the west, that we understand how important the river is. And farther south, we have a town called Cairo, Illinois, and it's an important port. And keep going south, all the way through Memphis and on to New Orleans. We're all in this together. And that's why our state wants to participate in Big River Works and in this whole mission. And I know you've had other conferences, 4 other ones, and I believe in water. I think that human beings want to live and work near water. That's a human impulse. It stretches back millions of years. So we've got to make sure that we are good stewards of our water and our waterways, whether it's for navigation, whether it's for recreation, whether it's for fishing, a very, very important pastime that Americans and Illinoisans have had for many, many years. It's for bird watching, one of our leading hobbies in America and definitely in Illinois. It's very special that we gather together and understand that all of us have to be interconnected. If our mud in Illinois can help our friends in Louisiana rebuild the wetlands and protect against surges of hurricanes and protect property and many other things and lives, then that's a good investment. And so we look forward to working with everybody on this mission of a lifetime. Our state has a constitution that was fairly recently adopted in 1970, and I voted for it because that was the first time I got to vote. And you know, it was a referendum, and the people enacted the Constitution. Our state, in the Constitution, we have an environmental article. Very few states have that, but you know, we thought it was important enough to include. And it basically says that everyone is entitled to a healthful environment. And it is the duty of everyone, not just government, every person, it says, has the duty to provide and maintain a healthful environment for this and future generations. That's what the Illinois Constitution says. So it means that everybody is in and nobody is left out when it comes to providing for a healthful environment, not just for our time, but for all time, for future generations. And that's how we're going to be judged. We do not want to leave the Mississippi River worse than we found it. And we know there's a lot of ecological challenges. There's a lot of navigational challenges. We've got to deal with droughts and floods. We have to take a look at some of the decisions of the past that perhaps aren't helping us in the present or the future. And so our state, with many locks and dams, you know, we have to take a look at everything and make sure we do it right. We do, in our state, understand that we partner up with our friends in Missouri and our friends all along the river, north and south, and we're very grateful to have Big River Works here in Illinois. When I leave here today, we have a clean water initiative going in our state where we're investing over $1 billion with communities, municipalities, sanitary districts, water reclamation districts on clean water. We call it the Clean Water Initiative. And I'm going to be going to Kankakee, where we're making a very large investment, over $20 million, to help them with their wastewater treatment. And I think that that is something that we should also keep in mind as we try to protect the river. It's a source of drinking water for millions of Americans, and we need to invest in water mains that are 21st century. We have some water mains here in Chicago that were laid during the administration of Ulysses S. Grant, and they're getting a little bit older, and they need replacement. He was a president who lived in Galena, Illinois, but I bet if he was here today, he'd say, well, they've done their part, and now it's time for you to do your part. And those wooden tree trunks that are water mains in some parts of our state, it's time to get going in the 21st century.